The Last of Us Season 2 VFX team deep dives into Episode 2 and shares hopes for Season 3. I found myself siding with Abby. They killed the hero in broad daylight, and then expected you to cheer for the woman who pulled the trigger. But what if I told you? The monster you hate was never the villain. And what if I told you you've been manipulated since Season 1? Because behind every infected face, behind every blood-slicked hallway, and every scream that echoed through Jackson, was a secret. A digital deception so precise, you never even knew it was there. And the truth, it's not just about Joel's death, it's about a creature that was never meant to exist. A bloater that hides something obscene. 1,000 bodies with one mind, and someone, somewhere, wanted you to believe Abby was wrong. But tonight, you'll discover the forbidden truth of the secrets buried beneath the pixels wall, and why the VFX team behind The Last of Us Season 2 may have seen Abby more clearly than any of us ever did. Don't look away. Not yet. Because everything they showed you was calculated. And everything they didn't was intentional. Let's start where the truth began to unravel, Episode 2. The death of Joel wasn't just a plot twist. It was a narrative explosion, wrapped in the most dangerous scene ever constructed in this series. And yet, most viewers never noticed what really happened in the snow that day, because you were too busy grieving, too distracted by rage, too shocked to see the invisible hands orchestrating the chaos. Nubicol, the New Zealand-based visual effects house, didn't just animate monsters. They resurrected memories. They manipulated emotion. And with over 1,000 digital bodies, they blurred the line between what's real and what's designed. Their goal wasn't just realism, it was precision. Every infected face had detail. Every shadow served a purpose. Because in Season 2, well, there was nowhere to hide. And the scariest part? That includes you, the viewer. Because while you watched Joel die, well, they were watching you. If you think this is already deep, if you believe you know what happened in Jackson, then hit subscribe right now, because what I reveal next will change how you see every single episode of The Last of Us. You don't want to miss what's coming. Let's talk about him, the bloater, the tank of decay, the creature that was never supposed to make it this far. TLOU didn't just copy-paste the bloater from Season 1, they rebuilt him, taller, wider, fungal growths modeled after a real species called chicken of the woods. He was made anatomically correct, and yes, that includes what you're imagining. Because, as one VFX supervisor put it, Wes spent way too much time talking about that? Why? Because the bloater in Season 2 wasn't just a monster, he was a symbol of evolution, of escalation, and of secrets that couldn't be shown under firelight. Season 1 let them cheat, darkness, flames, blurry motion. You thought you saw the infected, but you didn't. You saw a shadow of them. Season 2 took that cheat code away. Every inch of infected flesh was exposed to daylight. Every flaw, visible. Every lie, at risk. So they had to make the bloater perfect. But here's the chilling twist. That bloater wasn't just visual. He was simulated. Joints, anatomy, behavior. A living algorithm of rotting flesh and fungal intellect. So realistic, he could have walked out of your screen. But even more dangerous than the bloater, what was the Horde? 30 to 40 actors. That's all they had. Stunt performers drenched in prosthetics. Well, and yet, on screen, they became 1,000. Every infected in that Horde was a clone of truth. Built from real scans, given randomized hair, clothing, fungus growth. Each one capable of walking straight into your line of sight and fooling you completely. Even if you paused the screen, zoomed in, analyzed the patterns, you'd never know who was real and who was created. This wasn't crowd simulation. This was digital necromancy. And here's where it gets disturbing. The VFX team wasn't just trying to scare you. They were trying to manipulate your subconscious. Because humans are excellent at spotting patterns. Too good, in fact. If two infected moved the same way, your brain rejected it, called it fake. So they had to build new movement cycles, recast actors, force different runs, even animate interactions, infected bumping off real people like a swarm of mindless rage. One animator said it best, it started to look like Monty Python. Because when the human form becomes a tool, it risks looking ridiculous. So they backtracked, refitted, forced different motions into different infected body types. Tall, short, slender, twisted. So now, when you see them running across the frozen Jackson streets, you believe it. Because the trick isn't to fool your eyes, it's to fool your brain. But even all that, the bloater, the 1,000 infected, wasn't the final trick. The final illusion was empathy. Because the most forbidden knowledge wasn't about Joel. It was about Abby. And why the team that animated the blood on her hands found themselves siding with her. Not at first. You were meant to hate her, to resist her, to scream when she took Joel away. But now, even the animators admit they found themselves believing in her. Why? Because her world was built more carefully, her actions more justified, her trauma more recent. So ask yourself, what if the person you hated most was the one who actually saved the story? There's something uncanny about realism. When it feels too real, it becomes frightening. That was the VFX team's dilemma. The infected weren't just creatures. They were people once, and the camera, now peering through daylight's harsh lens, offered no mercy. Digital, the visual effects wizards behind The Lord of the Rings and Avatar, were given a new nightmare to manifest. 1,000-strong horde of infected, each one rendered with hero character fidelity. Not background noise, not filler, but individuals. Individually rigged, textured, composited, and terrifyingly human. They started with just 30 to 40 stunt performers and prosthetics. From those, they cloned an army. Each infected could wear any article of clothing, any hair, any fungal mutation randomized, remixed, reborn. It wasn't just about filling frames, it was about fooling the eye and the soul. Because the horror wasn't what you saw. It was not who you saw. It was the idea that any one of them could have once been you bigger, meaner, anatomically correct. Yes.
That's not a joke.
The VFX team debated his appendage, joints, simulation, weight movement. They animated everything because, as they said, there's nowhere to hide. It wasn't about shock. It was about immersion, authenticity. Even the grotesque had to be believable. And this bloater wasn't just a reskin of Season 1. No, they looked at wrestlers, not bodybuilders. Power, mass, a weight that shook the snow with every step. The fungus on his shoulders, chicken of the woods. Real, world mushrooms scanned with photogrammetry. Details so intricate that if you paused the frame during a firefight, zoomed in, you'd see frozen spores glistening under sunlight. But the creature had to move. And move like something impossible yet real. That's where Adam Basel returned. Season 1's bloater performer. He brought the weight, the rage. And Dennis Yoo's team added the heaviness in keyframes, making every stomp feel like the earth trying to spit the monster out. And then came the horde. What began as stunt actors became 1,000 infected, surging through Jackson. But that wasn't enough. Humans, especially audiences, are pattern detectors. Put two base animations side by side, and your brain knows something is off. The infected couldn't just look different. They had to move differently. And that became a nightmare. New performers were brought in to run limp, lurch. But soon, they were overacting, running like cartoons, not monsters. Monty Python invaded the apocalypse. The animators had to strip it back, blend it, resize it. 6'2" motion on a 4'5" infected. It looked like a demonic toddler on fast forward, so they backtracked, refit every motion, matched size to weight to gait to texture. They built a system so robust Craig Mazin could say, "I want that one wearing a checked shirt," and it would appear, like summoning horror from code. But sometimes, the most impressive terror is what you never notice. Like the Main Street scene. The camera follows our heroes running through chaos. But how much of that is real? Nick Epstein, the VFX supervisor, says you wouldn't believe it. Entire crowds, buildings, carnage, completely digital. But you didn't know that. That was the point. There's one shot where Abby jumps on a ladder, escaping the crowd. The infected surge beneath her. And some of those creatures aren't real, but they interact perfectly with real stunt actors. Ragdoll simulations make them jitter and bounce, as if packed into a music festival from hell. The VFX team's greatest pride, not the creatures, not the gore, not the violence, but the invisibility of their work. You never knew it was fake, and that is the greatest illusion of all. But wait, why did WTD put so much emotional weight into Abby's point of view? And why do the artists side with her? Is it just about performance, or is there something much deeper, more dangerous in the story of The Last of Us? Behind the scenes, something ancient is stirring. A secret project, a dream, a nightmare, a name whispered in hushed tones around WTD's production floor, the Rat King. You remember it, Episode 9, Season 1. A grotesque fusion of infected bodies, a hive, a colony, a monster born from time and rot and rage. But what you saw was only the beginning. In early meetings for Season 2, designers were told, make it worse. Make it evolve. They began scanning real tumors, layering fungal simulations into cancerous growths. What happens when cordyceps doesn't just kill, but breeds inside? The concept art shows limbs fusing into bone, heads swallowed into chests, teeth inside throats. The new Rat King, WT claims, won't be just a monster boss. It'll be a moment of truth, a philosophical statement about infection, about transformation, about what we become when we stop being human. Naruto RAVO. Because that's what this show is really about. Not zombies, not survival, but identity. Who we are when everything else is stripped away. And no one knows this better than Abby. Behind the furor, behind the debates, the VFX artists are quietly, almost obsessively, reshaping the world around her. Not Ellie. Not Joel. Her. They aren't just building environments. They're building empathy. Every texture on Abby's face is mapped from real athletes. Her musculature, not stylized. Real women, real scars, real muscle, real pain. And that's what terrifies people. Because when they look at her, they feel something: anger, conflict, respect, disgust, but never nothing. The VFX team knew they weren't just rendering a character, they were crafting a mirror. And yet, there's one thing they haven't shown us. Not yet. Something they're keeping quiet. Hidden. A final infected evolution. They call it Project Widow. A cordyceps mutation born not of violence but of grief. Something feminine, silent, beautiful, deadly. Not a brute, not a beast, but a mother, caring for a nest of infected like twisted, fungal offspring. Is it real? Nick Epstein won't confirm it, but insiders say a team of 12 animators has been quietly working on it for months. It moves slow, graceful, like a ballad in decay, and we may see it in the very last episode of Season 2. The Last of Us has always blurred the lines between the beautiful and the horrifying. Love and hate, survival and sacrifice. But the true terror lies in how much of it is already happening in the real world. Fungal intelligence, cordyceps evolution, hive minds, responding to signals miles away. And as WET builds new horrors frame by frame, pixel by pixel, you have to wonder, are they predicting the future? Or are they just recording it? Because if the world ever does end, not with a bang, but with a quiet spore floating in the wind, you won't see it coming. But the VFX team at WET, they already did.